Hey, welcome back to Dad Space, the podcast for dads by dads. My name is Dave. I'm happy to have you here with me, you and me together. If it's your first time here, welcome to Dad Space. This is a podcast that we created years ago. Many episodes. We're like episode 180. This is a lot of episodes about dad stuff. And again, your first time here, there's a lot. 179 episodes in the past to help you as a dad. I hope you find something here that helps you to be a better dad, to be a better you, and all that great stuff. Now, I'm old. I'm realizing that every day when I try to get up and it takes me 5 minutes. I'm getting older, and I grew up back in the day. And there's a TV show that I love that brings back all the memories, all the toys, all the movies, all the pop culture references, all the parenting that was done back then. TV show is called The Goldbergs, and it is probably one of the most fun shows that I continue to watch. I've watched every episode, but I watch it again and again and again because it's kind of brings me back to when there was a younger version of this old man talking to you when I grew up in the 80s. And you probably, some of you are listening are like, I wasn't even born in the 80s. Okay, well, makes me feel archaic, but I'm here and I love talking about this show. And what I want to do is pull out some dad lessons from the father on the show, Murray. Some things that you'll see on the show if you ever watch the show. I'd love for you to watch the show. But to pick up on some of the lessons that Murray teaches us as a dad in the 80s without podcasting, without the resources we have today. Murray had to do his best. And there's a lot of things he screws up on in the show, but there's a lot of things he gets right. So what I want to do is bring forward to you in 2025 and beyond some of the lessons from the show, from the 80s, from the character Murray on the Goldbergs that could help influence you to be a better dad in 2025 with all the resources we have now compared to the lack of resources we had back then, how we can be a better dad in 2025, leveraging the lessons from the 80s. I know that's a long time ago. I feel old when I say it, but I am old. So let's talk about how we can bring Murray's lessons from the show forward for you as a dad today. And whether you watch the show or not, we got something for you to learn here on Dad Space. I'm so glad you're here. Let's jump in. So the character of Murray on the Goldbergs, if you haven't seen the show, I'll unpack it for you so you don't feel like you're missing out. Murray Goldberg is a gruff yet lovable patriarch of the Goldbergs. He's the dad. He often has a unique lens on fatherhood. And again, it's all rooted in the 80s before there were these amazing parenting books, podcasts, viral videos, social media, and constant digital connectivity. Murray on the show is trying to do his best to parent with all the limitations of the 80s. While his methods might seem outdated or a little blunt to today's standards, there are some foundational lessons from Murray's character that remind us to be relevant, and it also helps us to learn some valuable ways that we move into 2025, leveraging the lessons from Murray. Now, picture this. Murray worked at a furniture store. He owned it, I believe, on the show. And when he comes home from work, the first thing he does, he comes through the door and he drops his pants at the entrance, like kicks off his pants and goes straight to his lazy boy chair to watch TV and crash. And that was him. Yeah, that's how he showed. And people, it didn't matter if they had company, didn't matter if what was going on. Murray came home and dropped his pants. Now, I have never come home and drop my pants at the door, but that's an interesting way to make an entrance when you come home. So anyway, but Murray was very, very gruff as a character, very black and white, very short on words. But there's a loving side to Murray's character that I think is overshadowed by how he plays his character sometimes when people don't expect it. There was a loving side to him, and there was a recognition of wrongs. There was hey, I could have done better in this situation as a dad, which is sweet. It's nice to see that on TV. A lot of the dads pictured on television seem to be kind of cartoonish, like this stupid guy in the corner who doesn't do anything kind of thing, or, the guy that just kind of grunts. And it's sad that men are regulated to and relegated to this, cartoonish version of somebody who's irrelevant, who just takes up space and pays the bills kind of thing. That's not who we are as dads. We want to be more. We want to break that stereotype of, just not relevant. I think we as dads, we need to be relevant in how we show up. So what are some of these wisdom nuggets that we can bring forward as a dad into 2025 from the 80s and from the show, specifically the Goldbergs? So I got 6. Let's jump in. We'll go through these one at a time. Some foundational lessons from Mr. Murray Goldberg from the Goldbergs TV show. Number 1, instilling independence and resilience in your kids. So back in the 80s, a lot of us kids, we used to fend for ourselves. We would come home to an empty house. We would be latchkey kids, we used to call us. We would just come home and our parents would be working and they wouldn't be there. And this show, the mom is always around, which is great. But for me growing up, working parents was a normal thing. And often we would come home to an empty house. That was just a thing. Very different today in that kids have the connectivity of the internet and all that stuff. So and they got cameras in your house, you got all that stuff. So you can tell when things are around, and you don't feel so alone, I guess, in the world because you're so connected with all these devices. Back then, we didn't have any of that stuff. You were on your own. You had a home phone attached to the wall. That's about all you had. But we had some independence and resilience back then. And Murray's character really helps reinforce that on the show. Murray's approach often on the show was to say no and then let his kids fend for themselves, believing that self-reliance was a key element to preparing them for the new real world. And in an era of helicopter parenting, this lesson is a reminder that giving kids space to solve their own problems helps for them to build confidence. As parents in 2025, we don't need to be the answer to every question. We might need to ask more questions and put our kids in situations where they do need to think on their feet and be responsible for their decisions and the path they choose. That's how the show was for Goldbergs. A lot of, you go figure it out, let me know what happens. So there's got to be a balance there somewhere, right? As parents, I think that we need to reinstill in our kids some resilience skills and to be able to think critically and think about outcomes and think about results based on decisions. I think we need to instill more independence in our kids so that they know and feel confident that when they leave our house and go off to college, university, move away, get married, whatever, that they have the tools to be self-reliant. I'm seeing it in a lot of parents I talk to. Their kids are struggling because mom and dad did everything for them and they never learned life lessons. And they don't know how to navigate the real world without the support of their parents. So think about your kids right now. Would they be able to pay their bills, show up for work on time, be a contributing member to society, support others, be kind, be thoughtful, balance their bank account, understand the cost of credit and credit cards, all that. We need to instill independence and resilience in our kids. And I would say it starts when your kids are even small. It doesn't start when, 2 weeks before they move out. It starts now. So think about how can you instill some independence in your kids and help them understand how they contribute to the world, not just receive from the world. That's the first one. The second thing I pick up from the show and through Murray is how to show love in unconventional ways. Murray is a big teddy bear, but he's not overly affectionate on the show. He seems awkward socially. He seems to not be a hugger. He doesn't seem to be overly expressive with his emotions, very kind of closed off. In some ways, represents a lot of men who don't know how to deal with that side of themselves. He's not overly affectionate, and Murray's love for his family, though, is evident in his actions, working hard at his furniture store, providing for his household, and stepping in when it really truly matters. His gruff exterior masks a deep loyalty and commitment to his family. It really does illustrate that love doesn't always look the same for everyone. It doesn't look like hugs and praise and affection. Sometimes it's just showing up and doing what needs to be done. To be the parent showing up to the musical at school or the play or the sports event or whatever, and being the parent in the stands who doesn't have to be overly expressive, but he's there. And I think sometimes we think that we have to be big and do big things to demonstrate our love, but sometimes it's just showing up. And that's what I love about Murray's character, is he really just, he's there. And I love that about what he does and how his character's portrayed on the show. The third part, embracing the simplicity and the directness as a dad. On the show, Murray as the dad, his personality is simple and very straightforward. He said what he meant, and he doesn't sugarcoat the truth. He doesn't try to water it down or make it easier to take. He's very direct. And in today's world, I'm feeling that the overcomplication and constant spin, we see it in media, we see it in everything. There just needs to be honest, direct communication. And I don't see a lot of that today, like we did back in the 80s. As dads, I think being clear about expectations and boundaries can foster trust and mutual respect in families, and it will feed out and show up later on in life when our kids turn into adults. And they too now must foster trust and respect. If it's been modeled well for them growing up, it becomes a tool for them in the future that they can use as adults. So I think we as parents with our kids, no matter how old they are, we're investing in their toolbox as they develop over time so that the things they need will be there when they need them because they saw us demonstrate them in real time as we parent them. So that's my challenge for you is, when's the last tool that you invested in your kid's toolbox they're going to leverage as an adult in the future? What is it? And maybe it's time to get some new tools and add to their collection and start that today. I like that. Also on the show that I found is one of the key things that makes me love Goldbergs is finding humor in everyday things. Despite his irritation and grumbling, Murray's interactions were often laced with humor, sometimes unintentionally. So his king of the remote moments, our creative parenting hacks, remind us not to take ourselves so seriously. I love a home where laughter and lightness lives. It can diffuse tension and bring families closer together. It can help in really serious, hard times. And I love a good gut laugh from our kids. I love a home that has fun and demonstrates, again, this lightness. Life is heavy. We get pushed around a lot. And I believe that home needs to be a light, loving, and happy place where we can be our true selves. And we don't need to put on a disguise. And Murray wears no disguises. And he laughs a lot on the show, and he brings a lot of laughter to situations that happen. And that's a sweet thing for a dad to do. So when's the last time you made your family laugh? When's the last time you brought joy into your home and celebrated how funny life can be? It's time to be a little less serious and a little bit more fun. And all of us could lighten up just a little bit, I think, as dads. The next thing, too, is just how Murray, as a dad, would let others shine. In the show, Murray seems to redirect attention to others. It's interesting. He would deflect the light away from himself, and it would feature his kids or his wife, his extended family. He would redirect attention away from himself. We do that a lot as men. We tend to want to make others shine at the expense of our own light sometimes. But Murray was content to let his wife Beverly run the household and run the family and do all of the things. That was her personality, and that lit her up, and it helped her to find value in the show. And remember, we're talking about 1980s references here. So for Beverly, she was an amazing cook. She loved doing all this. She loved serving her family. That was what gave her joy. And often overlooked, Murray would help to shine a light on her, so the family would realize how important she was to them. He knew his strengths, and he didn't feel threatened by others who had a strong personality. This humility and willingness to step back can be a powerful lesson for modern dads. Empowering others doesn't diminish your role as a dad. It's finding your role, reading the room, and understanding all the different personalities within your home. You'll see on that show where he purposely takes a step back so Beverly can take a step forward. And that's the beauty of a relationship. When two people understand their roles and how they serve each other, they never fought to be the leader, but they work together and use their unique abilities and insights and personalities to complement each other. That's a good relationship. And I love that demonstrated on the show. So let other people shine. It's not going to diminish you. It's going to increase the light in your home. Let others shine. And then lastly, when I look at the 1980s references in Goldbergs and today in 2025 and how this kind of works together, is trusting instincts over trusting trends. As I mentioned earlier, in the 80s, there wasn't such a plethora of parenting experts on TV, on podcasts, Dad Space, or TV, all these different elements, social media. We didn't have any of that stuff. And Murray parented more by instinct, relying on common sense and lived experiences. While all these resources are really, really helpful, and we are blessed in 2025 with the amount of knowledge we have for parents compared to the 80s. Trust me, it's a whole new world. These resources, they're helpful, but trusting your gut and adapting to your family's unique needs instead of making your family fit into somebody else's parenting program, you need to take a parenting program and adapt it to your family. It's essential in an age of information overload that we understand what our real instincts are as parents. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. But relying on our instincts over popular trends that seem to come and go, we need to understand how we see the world as parents, make the best decisions that we can come up with. I think that would be really helpful for us to put into place. So let's bring some of Murray's lessons from 1980 on the Goldbergs TV show into 2025. What do we got? If Murray was able to join us for this podcast, which I would love to have him on, Murray would probably bring these ideas to us as dads as lessons from the 80s that we could bring into 2025. Encourage independence in your kids by letting them try, fail, and learn from it. Encourage independence. Show love through consistent presence and support, even if it's not always verbal. Communicate directly and honestly and avoid unnecessary complexity from a parent to your kids. Use humor to navigate challenges and strengthen relationships. Laugh more. Make your house lighter. Support your partner's strengths and share responsibilities, and understand how to read the room and find your place as a dad. It's not a competition. And balance expert advice that we have coming to us in spades right now with your own unique instincts and values. Murray Goldberg may not have ever won Father of the Year, but his foundational lessons, rooted in resilience, simplicity, authenticity, all of these things combined offer us some really great timeless guidance for dads and families navigating the complexities of 2025. And the one thing you'll pick up on too on the show is, as much as Murray's trying to do his best to parent his kids, he also was a kid at one time, and he shares in many, many episodes how hard it was to be parented by dads that didn't show up for him, or the bad lessons he learned from his father, the broken relationships, the awkwardness of not being able to talk to your dad. And he always wanted to be for his kids what his dad wasn't for him. And as hard as you try, and as much as you show up, your kids are probably going to say the same thing about you. As loving as you are, there are things that your kids are going to do because you weren't that for them as much as you tried. And that's the beauty of this, is we're getting better. As we look back from the 80s and the struggles and all the things that were going on in the world in the 80s, it's a different time. And I love the idea that every generation seems to get it a little bit more right. So be okay with the fact that you're never going to be enough as a dad. You're never going to have all the answers. You're not going to do it perfectly. But the one thing that you do have is that you're not doing this on your own. And that whole thing about there's nobody here for you, there is. It's Dad Space. And it's the stories we tell on Dad Space. It's the other dads that come on. It's the conversations we have here are designed to help you to be enough and to be comfortable and confident as a dad that you are enough and you have more resources and more opportunity to learn. And as long as you become an avid learner and you understand that you could do better, then the potential for you is great. It doesn't matter if you're a dad with kids in your 20s or you're a dad and your kids are brand new, those young little kids. No matter how old your kids are, you can always learn something new. So dads, thank you for being here. And again, go watch Goldbergs. I think it's probably playing somewhere on rerun somewhere for you. But go check out the Goldbergs. It's a fun show, and it's got a lot of 80s references. And if you grew up in the 80s like me, you're going to see your old toys. You're going to see your old posters. You're going to hear your old music. And it's pretty fun to relive those days. Now with the hindsight and where we are today, a little nostalgia is kind of healthy for you. It takes you back and helps you to realize how great you got it right now in 2025. I'm happy because I have time with you. None of this podcasting stuff lived in 1980s at all. And I'm so happy that we have this medium where you and I can get together and talk about dad stuff and spend some time together. Love to hear from you over at dadspace.ca. To Murray Goldberg, thanks for being a great example with all of the limitations of the 1980s and the lessons that we can bring forward into 2025. Thank you, Murray. Hey, thanks for listening to Dad Space. Thanks for hanging out to the end of the podcast. That's a great sign to wherever you're listening to this podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, fill in the blank, that this was a good podcast to send people to. So simply by listening to this point of the podcast, you're helping the show grow. So good on you. Thanks for helping us grow Dad Space. If you want to help us fill our cups over at Dad Space, head over to dadspace.ca. Dadspace.ca, simple website, right? Dadspace.ca. You can fill up our coffee cup, which helps us then to keep moving forward with the podcast, and use our Buy Me a Coffee link over at dadspace.ca. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for coming back. And thank you for sharing. Because the more dads we can help, the better. We're all here to help each other grow in community. That's what it's all about. And without you, podcast is pointless. There's no reason to do any of this. So you being here means everything. See you at dadspace.ca. Take care.